Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So today's episode comes to you courtesy of one of my amazing patrons, Caleb, who's supporting this channel as a general tier patron, and I truly couldn't do this without the support from amazing patrons like Caleb. So again, Caleb, thank you so much. And for the personalized deck tech, Caleb chose Mizzix Replica Rider, a very spicy commander, a 4/5 Goblin Wizard with flying that costs 4 and a red. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may pay 1 and Izzet colors. If you do, copy that spell and you may choose new targets for the copy. If the copy is a permanent spell, gains haste, and at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this permanent. So this is a very spicy commander, one that says, hey, if you're casting anything from anywhere other than your hand, so here, there, or anywhere, again, graveyard, exile, etc., 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 top of the library, whatever it is, you've got the potential to double it up. Now, if it is a instant sorcery, whatever it is, cool, double up permanently. If it's a permanent, you get a secondary copy of it temporarily, which again can be a lot of value for you. Regardless, the amount of value, the amount of craziness that can happen with this commander is absurd. So yeah, Izzet is very, very much happy with a commander like this. Now, if you are interested in this commander, this is an incredibly budget-friendly deck. The commander itself is $2.25. The total cost, according to Moxfield, is $17.79. Keep in mind that doesn't include the cost of shipping or basic lands, so you might already have those. That being said, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into tactics. So first up, let's start with tactic number 1, and we're going to start with a bang with the golden pig of this deck, the number 1 card in the 99, and that is Sage of the Beyond, a 5/5 spirit giant with flying for 7 mana in total, but it's got a foretell cost of just 5 mana. Spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less to cast. So this is an absurdly good card in this kind of a deck because, yeah, ramp is nice, but reduction is good, is really, really good, is massive in that, well, it can reduce a lot of things for you throughout the game, save you an absurd amount of mana, help you cast more spells in a turn than you'd be able to cast. And again, this applies to every single spell you cast from anywhere other than your hand, which, again, this entire deck is built around casting spells outside of your hand, so it's a crazy good card. Sage of the Beyond, definitely worthy of the title, in my opinion, of Golden Pig. But of course, we've got other reducers as well, so let's move on to tactic number 2, less is more. First up, we've got Goblin Electromancer. Instant source spells cost 1 less to cast, so this is a very simple, very effective card that only costs 2 mana again, and it says, hey, let's reduce the cost of many of our spells. So we're also going to be running Cosmos Charger, another creature in this deck that can be very, very good for us. It says foretelling cards to your hand cost 1 less and can be done on any player's turn. It's got a foretell cost itself, so yeah, we have a decent amount of foretell card costs in this deck, and it's going to reduce those. It also let us, again, utilize that effect on our opponent's turns, which can be huge. Then we've got Mind Slice Apparatus. Flash this in at the beginning of your upkeep, put an oil counter on it. On top of that, instant source spells you cast cost 1 less cast for each oil counter on it. So the longer that the game goes on, the more counters we get on this, and the more reduction we get on many of our spells. Speaking of which, other Mizzix is here. Mizzix of the Is Magnus, a 2/2 Goblin Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant source spell with mana value greater than the number of experience counters you have, you get an experience counter. Instant source spells you cast cost 1 less cast for each experience counter you have. This can be absurd. Throughout the game, this can build more and more and more, and all of a sudden, you are saving an absurd amount of mana, and you are casting an absurd amount of spells in a single turn. But next up, we've got tactic number 3, more is more. And of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2 tap, sacrifice, go get a base land, and play tap. Fantastic land ramp in any color. Next up, Everflowing Chalice, a very flexible mana rock. 2 mana, we can tap for 1, 4 tap for 2, etc., etc. Fire Diamond is great. Enters the battlefield tap, can tap for a red mana. We are also running Sky Diamond, which is the exact same thing, but it can tap for a blue. Fractured Power Stone, can't tap for either of those, but it can come into play untap and tap for 8 colors for us. Then there's Guardian Idol, which does come into play tap, but we can actually have it turn into a 2/2 when we need it to. Instant Signet, which can filter our mana in a fantastic way. Mind Stone, which can tap for 8 colors, or we can pay 1 to tap and sacrifice to draw a card. So again, we've got so many effective and efficient mana rocks. Also with Prismatic Lens, does the exact same thing, taps for 8 colors, but can also filter our mana. Then we've got a 3 mana Worn Power Stone, very efficient. Enters battlefield tapped, can tap for 2. Firemind Vessel does enter battlefield tapped as well, but it can tap for each of our colors. We've got Stone Speaker Crystal, which can tap for both of our colors. We can pay 2 and tap and sacrifice an exile player's graveyard. So yeah, this can be great graveyard hate against the right decks and help us draw a card as well. So again, we want to be ramping so we can get a lot of value out of our spells. Again, being able to utilize our commander's ability a lot. And we can also get even more value out of this deck with tech number 4, Value Town. First up, we've got Irax, Empress of Mars. Battle Cry is nice, pumping our creatures, but also Paradox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you get a 2/2 red alien warrior creature token. That's going to happen quite a bit. Again, with this kind of a deck, we're going to get an absurd amount of tokens with this. Next up, we've got Osgood, Operation Double. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, investigate, which is great, especially since, hey, when we cast this spell, we get a token copy of it, but it's not legendary, so we get that effect twice, making an absurd amount of tokens for us, making an absurd amount of clues for us. That means that, hey, you know what? We can draw cards when we need to, and also on top of that, these Osgoods can be tapped to spend mana to cast artifact spells or abilities of artifacts, so keep that in mind. Next up, Past in Flames, another high-value card. Each instant sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. Flashback equals mana cost. We can also flash this back, so again, makes it so that we can recast our spells from somewhere outside of our hand, which is huge. Next up, we've got the 12th Doctor, a 4/4 Time Lord Doctor, because that's the thing. The first spell you cast from anywhere other than your hand each turn has Demonstrate, so we can just freely copy it essentially by making a deal with an opponent, of course, which is lovely. On top of that, whenever you copy a spell, you get a counter on this, which is nice. And then we've got Frost Fair Lure Fish, hard to say. 7/7 Fish enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 blue tapped fish creature tokens and 2 tapped treasure tokens. We can also foretell this, so again, casting it from outside of our hand, which is lovely. On top of that, fish you control have haste, it can't be blocked by humans. Lovely, that's great, especially playing against human tribal, that's great. But regardless, if we are foretelling this card and we copy it, keep in mind, yeah, we're getting 4 treasures out of it. Absolutely fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, though, let's move on to tactic number 5, free cast, because, yeah, the best things in life are free, right? Dual Strike is a great one. Whenever you cast your next in-source spell, converted mana cost 4 or less this turn, copy it, choose targets for the copy. You can also foretell this. The able to copy something can be fantastic, especially when we can copy it twice by foretelling it, and then also copying it as well. Then we've got Chaos Wand. I love this chaotic effect. Pay 4, tap, target opponent exiles card to the top of their library until they exile insert sorcery card. You can cast the card without paying its mana cost. Then you put the exile cards that were casted on the bottom of the library. Basically, cast something for free. And maybe if you hit something great, cool. Pay 2 extra and copy it again. Wand of Wonder, very similar. Pay 4, tap, roll a d20. Each opponent exiles cards to the top of their library to the exile in sorcery. Shuffles the rest of their library. You can cast X of those without paying their mana cost. 1 through 9, X is 1. 10 through 19, X is 2. If you hit a 20, there you go. X is 3. So a lot of extra value from that one. Synthesis Pod is a very spicy card. Artifact for, well, 3 and 2 life most likely. Pay 1 and 2 life most likely. Tap, exile a spell you control. Target opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a card with mana value equal to 1 plus the exiled spell's mana value. Exile a card the player shuffles. You may cast the exile card with paying its mana cost. This is pretty crazy. It can turn your spells essentially into free cast off the top of your opponent's library, which again, you can copy with your commander. It can be pretty fantastic. And then we've got Plarg and Nasari. Speaking of fantastic, at the beginning of your upkeep, each player exiles cards from the top of their library to the exile a non-land card. An opponent chooses a non-land card, exile this way. You may cast up to 2 spells from among the other cards exiles without paying their mana cost. That is a lot of value to be had every single turn for free that you again can copy with your commander. Speaking of which, Atali Primal Storm. Attack. Hey, everyone, take the top card of your library. I get to cast those. Lovely. So yeah, being able to copy those as well can be game ending, obviously. And then we've got Sunbird's Invocation. Speaking of game ending value, whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal cards to the top of your library or exit spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value excess from one of those cards revealed this way. Basically, hey, you're going to be casting spells from your hand too sometimes, and when you do, you get free things off the top of your library, which you then can copy again with your commander. Maybe it's Eminatu's Augury. Absurd value. Exile the top 8 cards of your library, put a land from them on the battlefield. Until end of turn, for each non-land card type, you may cast a spell of that type for free. So lots of free value to be had with a crazy spell like this. Next up, let's move on to tactic number 6, Second Hand, because yeah, our hand is great, but we've got other ways to get value and other hands that we can utilize, like, you know, our graveyard with Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy. Whenever you cast an instant short spell from your hand, you may cast up to 1 target card of the other type from your graveyard. So basically, hey, get that one for free. Yeah, it gets exiled, but that's okay. Get it for free. When you're casting one, you get the other. Then there's Tavern Brawler. Commander creatures you own have at the beginning of your upkeep. Exile the top card of your library. This creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn. X is that card's mana value. You may play that card this turn. So being able to cast cards off the top of your library is also lovely, of course. You know, exiling them, impulse drawing essentially, and pumping your commander, which again, we do have some cards that are pretty high mana value, can be a lot and can be game ending. Outpost Siege is a great one as well. Beginning of your upkeep, choose cons or dragons. Typically, you're probably going to choose cons. Basically, you get to impulse draw on each of your turns. Or dragons, if a creature leaves the battlefield. Outpost Siege is going to do 1 damage to any target. So basically, if you are kind of at that point where you may be making a bunch of creature tokens in a variety of ways, yeah, you maybe use that as a finisher. Precognition Field. Look at the top card of your library anytime. Cast top card of your library, it's insert a sorcery card, and then pay 3, exile the top card of your library. So some card selection there with that last part, but yeah, being able to cast spells off the top of your library is absurdly good, especially with how many instant sorceries you have in this deck. Visions of Phyrexia, impulse draw at the beginning of your turn essentially, and on top of that, beginning of your end step, if you didn't play a card from exile this turn, you get a Power Stone token, so that can help in a variety of ways. And then we've got Future Sight, an incredible card that basically turns the top of your library into a permanent extra hand. Play the top card of your library revealed, you may play the top card of your library. So yeah, again, being able to dig down in our library can be absurd, or dig down in your opponent's libraries with Stolen Strategy. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among the exiled cards, spend mana as though they're any color to cast those spells. Yeah, that's a lot of free extra value for you to utilize. Speaking of free extra value, Melik is at Paragon. 2/4, Weird Wizard, play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast instant source spells at the top of your library. Whenever you cast an source spell from the top of your library, I should say, copy it. You may choose targets for the copy. So on top of being able to get an extra hand off the top of our library, essentially, we can now copy spells off the top too. Absurd value. But now let's go on to tactic number 7. Can you dig it? And yes, we can. Faithless Looting, a great card. Draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, flash it back. So for extra value there. Surge of Brilliance. Draw a card for each spell you've cast this turn from anywhere other than your hand. That can be an absurd amount. You can also foretell this, of course. We've got Light Up the Stage. Hit your opponents once. You can do that in a variety of ways, including with your commander. Spectacle for a single red mana. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until your next turn, you may play those cards. So again, Impulse, draw 2 for just 1 mana potentially. Behold the Multiverse, scry 2, then draw 2. Fantastic foretell effect. Chemist's Insight, very similar, draw 2, but with Jumpstart. So again, you can recast from your graveyard. Speaking of which, Deep Analysis, flash this back from your graveyard for just 1, a blue, and 3 life. Draw 2 cards. Ignite the Future. You cast it, that's great. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until your next turn, you may play those cards. Flashback, though, this is even better. If this was cast from a graveyard, you may play these cards this way without paying their mana cost. So again, 3 cards off the top of your library for free. That is crazy. Throes of Chaos is a really fun card. Source for 4 mana, Cascade, and Retrace. So basically, get a free spell off the top of your library. It costs less than this. And also Retrace, so you can keep recasting this out of your graveyard for even more crazy value. Into the Time Vortex is also crazy value. Cascade, but instead of Retrace, this time it's Rebound. So cast it for free from exile next turn, which can be absolutely huge. Inspiring Refrain, speaking of huge, draw 2 cards, exile 3 time counters on it, suspend 3. So basically, just keep recasting this again and again and again. Again, if you want to copy it with your commander when it's cast from exile, just pay 2 extra mana for 2 more cards. Lovely. And Hit the Mother Load's a crazy fun card. Discover 10. Lovely. Just massive effect to get a massive card potential at the top of your library. And if the discovered card's mana value is less than 10, you create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the difference, which can be an absurd amount. So either this is massive temporary ramp, or yeah, cast something massive for free. Next up, though, let's go into tactic number 8, finish it. And we've already talked about some really powerful cards that can just basically win you the game. But also, we've got some cards like Fiery Inscription, which is a crazy good card. Enchantment, ETB, the Ring Tempts you. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, 2 damage each opponent. Absurd. You're going to be casting so many instant sorceries, your opponents are going to burn down really quickly. Speaking of which, Gutter Snipe, basically the exact same thing, but on creature form. Murmuring Mystic, whenever you're casting an instant sorcery, you get a 1/1 Bluebird illusion creature token with flying, so fill the board very quickly. And Tolerant Sky Summoner, even better. When you're casting those instant sorceries, 2/2 Flying Drakes instead. So yeah, that can be really deadly. But finally, let's go on to tag number 9. How about no, Scott? No, Dr. Evil, anyone? That was terrible. Okay, anyways, Depart the Realm, instant for 2 mana. Also can foretell for a single blue, bounce a non-land permanent back to its owner's hand. You find some prisoners, destroy an artifact, or impulse draw 3 off the top of an opponent's library, essentially. Impending Flux, we've got a sorcerer for 3 mana, X damage each opponent and the creature they control, where X is 1 plus the number of spells you cast from anywhere in your hand this turn, or tell it as well. So yeah, this can be a one-sided board wipe damage effect on your opponents. Raven Form, cast for foretell for single blue mana, exile target artifact or creature, replace it with a 1/1 bird. Yeah, that is well worth it. Saw it coming, foretell counterspell. What's not to love about that? Consuming Tide, a massive bounce effect. Each player chooses a non-land permanent they control, bounce all other non-land permanents back to their hand, and then you draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in hand than you. Aether Gale, 5 mana, very efficient, very effective. Bounce 6 target non-land permanents. Devastation Tide, bounce every single non-land permanent, and also if you miracle this off the top of your library, congratulations, cast for just a single 1 in a blue. And then finally, Perplexing Test. Again, some of our win conditions are just, hey, fill the board with a bunch of tokens. So with this, we're going to say, hey, let's bounce all the non-token creatures. Or again, we can bounce the token creatures if we need to. But now this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts are on this deck. If you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.